I've said this for many years and I almost proved myself wrong in this episode, but I didn't. Is it worth it to make your own granola, or should you buy it from the store? Which do you think? Tell me in the comments below before you watch and hear my opinion. Is it worth it to make your own granola, or should you just buy it from the store? Of course, the store is more convenient, but I have a really easy cooking method I'm gonna share with you today. Overnight granola or 4 hours granola, either way. I'm gonna break all of that down for you. I'm gonna do the ingredient breakdown, cost breakdown. I'm gonna show you how to make this, and then we'll decide if it's really worth it to make your own granola, or should you just buy the store-bought version. Granola, homemade versus store-bought. The ingredient and price breakdown is as follows. This is a 14-ounce box of regular granola. This is $3.62. There is a high protein version for $4.65. That's 11 ounces, as well as some other brands, including a gluten-free option that is $5.65 for 11 ounces. So $1 more than the high protein one of the same size. So how much is in this box of granola? That's a giant thing of honey. This is, the box is not that huge, but I want to show you how much this makes. So I already, let me see if I can get it out. One hand. Come on now. Okay, so here's how much is in there. And I'm gonna pour this into this measuring cup so we can see literally cup for cup how much we're gonna get. I'm gonna do the use two hands. I'll be right back. Okay, so this looks to be right at 4 cups. This is my larger pouring, and it's like 4.5 cups total. I mean, granola's got a lot of air in there. That's fine. But I just wanted to get an amount per cup so we can compare with this. So there is the 14 ounce. So 11 ounce would probably be closer to just under 4 cups. And 14 ounces is just over 4 cups. So there we have that for price comparison. Now, for these friends, the gluten-free oats is what I'm using, rolled, and then I actually turned those into quick cook oats because Amazon sent me the wrong bag twice. Whatever, I'm gonna make it work today. So it ends up being about $1 per cup for gluten-free oats of both of these brands for the price of the bag for how much is in there. If you're using a regular oat, like just rolled, like, you know, Quaker rolled oats, Quaker and rolled, that is about 75 cents per cup. So we're going to use 5 total cups, half and half, for this recipe. So that's $3.75 for regular oats, $5 for the gluten-free oats. And then these other ingredients, honey, butter, cinnamon, ginger, and vanilla, I'm adding a total of $2 for all of those. Obviously, I'm getting the cheapest option by using these larger containers that I get from the warehouse store because we use these ingredients a lot. So grand total for the 7 cups of, for the 5+ cups of gluten-free oats will be about $7. Price estimate for regular oats would be about $5.75 with all the ingredients and this. So looking like this is 4 cups. 4 cups between 3.5 and, oh goodness, 11 ounce. Let me do a quick math proration here. So between $3.5 and $5 for 4 cups, and this is looking at $5.75 for what will be a little bit more than 5.5 cups, let's say. So about the same. It is about the same. For the gluten-free version, we are looking at $5.65 for less than 4 cups and $7 for 5-ish cups. So ounce for ounce, it is going to be better. I did not include in this price breakdown anything that's super high in protein, meaning it has nuts mixed in. I wanted to get the non-nut versions because I'm not using nuts here, and that tends to increase the cost of the granola as well. So let's see how much we end up in total here, because right now in my estimation of about 5.5 cups-ish, we might end up with a little bit more. It's hard to tell because of how this, like how much air is. You can see the pockets in there. Anyway, so we'll see after this has cooked and cooled how much we end up getting, so that we can compare as close as we can. But looking like dollar for dollar, it's gonna be about the same, unless I am underestimating how much this homemade batch will make. So with that, let me teach you how to make this overnight granola. It doesn't have to be overnight, actually. More on that in a sec. Okay, preheat to 325, pardon my dirty stove. I will take care of cleaning that later. Let's mix up our granola. It's gonna start with a stick of butter melted. You could use oil, but I just like the kind of that little added buttery flavor to mine. Okay, I'm gonna scrape that clean with my spatula. Then we're gonna do, this honey, sticky, a 2/3 cup of sweetener. Honey or maple are my go-tos. If you're gonna use brown sugar, you're gonna need to heat it in a saucepan with the butter so that the brown sugar essentially melts into the butter. So that's just another extra step if need be. And then when I do it that way, I will just mix all the rest of it. I'll just use one of my bigger saucepans and I'll just mix all the rest of the ingredients in the saucepan instead of in the bowl like this. Okay, we're gonna scrape this out as well. And then the last wet ingredient that we have is going to be the vanilla. I do have a whisk here. The whisk is gonna really help better incorporate this. This is the last of my vanilla. It's gonna be just the right amount. Okay. I am gonna use this vanilla in a minute. Let me whisk this together first. It's still kind of dripping there. Okay. I'm just gonna whisk to combine the honey and the butter and the vanilla. And then from here, we will add the oats, cinnamon, and ginger. Okay, this friend again. Okay. Keeping my mess contained as best I can here. So we need 5 cups total. I'm gonna do half and half of regular oats and quick cook. And the reason I do that is that when you combine all this together, the rolled oats are kind of large, right? They're huge actually compared to the other guys. And when the granola clumps together, you want these smaller quick cook oats to kind of fill in the gaps, if you will, with the rolled oats. Okay, so 2.5, 1, 2.5. Okay. And then I need a teaspoon of cinnamon. And here's where you can play with flavor, spices. If it's fall, add a little allspice and nutmeg. I just like a little touch of ginger. I just think ginger and cinnamon and oats are just kind of a great combination. Also very basic. So I'm just gonna do half a teaspoon, which is 2 of these little 1/4 teaspoon guys. That's just the one I grabbed. This guy is so tiny, he's so cute. Who knew measuring spoons could be cute? Who knew? Leave it to me. All right. So from here, I'm just gonna kind of mix that in at the top layer and then mix down into that wet butter honey, butter maple if you're wanting to do maple. And I'm just gonna mix this until the granola forms. And I can even see in here, like I just told you, like it just clumps nicely when it's half and half combination like that. So from here, I am going to transfer this to this lined baking sheet here. I've got it all mixed together. Just turn it over, fold it in. Yes, 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 I know. If you know, you know, fold it in. If you don't know, Google fold in the cheese on YouTube. It might be my all-time favorite television show scene ever. Okay, then we're gonna spread this onto an even layer, into an even layer, I should say, here on this lined baking sheet. And here is where the magic happens. This is how you get perfect granola every time. This method, this overnight granola method, is tried and true. I have done it for years. I have never had a batch of granola go awry. Oftentimes what happens, here's what I mean. Oftentimes what happens with a homemade granola is because if you cook it for too long at too high of a temperature, burned, too crispy on here, on the edges. So we might get a little crisp on the edges when we do this. I have had that happen a couple of times over the years, but really it shouldn't happen. I think it might depend on the sugar or like the sweetener that you use, right? But honey is gonna be less prone to that. Okay, so here's how this works. I have the oven preheated at 325, okay? We are going to put this in the oven for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna turn off the oven and let it stay in there either overnight or for at least 2 hours for the oven to completely cool down. So instead of baking this for 30 to 35 minutes like this, turning it off the oven, taking it out with burnt edges, we're going to bake it at 325, which is a slightly lower heat, then turn the oven off, and then it will immediately start to cool down. And as it cools down, it dries everything out and gives it that perfect crispiness and crunchiness without the burnt edges. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and put it into the oven right now. I'm gonna set the timer for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna turn off the oven, and I will be back later this afternoon with a recap and comparison with the store-bought granola. Okay, 10 minutes is up, so I'm gonna turn that off. Here's a little peek, no burnt edges. We're gonna just let that cool down in there, and we're ready to go in a couple hours. Okay, not gonna lie, it was really strange just pulling this out of the oven without oven mitts. Always use caution, but it was very strange. Okay, I wanna break this up for you so you can see the crunchiness and consistency. And I also want you to see that there are 0 burnt edges. There's a little bit of extra brown along the edge, and by little bit, I mean a little bit. No burned oats. Hooray. Okay, so I am just gonna use my metal spatula. Look at how crunchy this is. I mean, look, it's perfect. The way that it cools down in the oven. So you can just sort of break it up. I usually do big chunks and then break up the little chunks. I mean, just a massive piece. I love how it just breaks up in just the right size chunks. Of course, granola with cream, yogurt, fresh berries. I did think of one thing I had done before I wanted to share. Like a lot of times, especially after the holidays, or maybe like a party, you have like extra nuts around. I don't usually buy like almonds, slivered almonds or anything for granola specifically, but if I have them, then I will add them. So that is another thing. I think I mentioned earlier, I don't do too many of the nuts in here, and I only really do. I'm trying to break this into smaller pieces so that when I add it to the bag, we have a pretty accurate comparison to this store-bought. This is very satisfying, as my children would say. Very satisfying, breaking this up. It's almost therapeutic. Super easy to do. You just let the oven do all the heavy lifting in a little time, a couple hours to cool down. Let's see, I made this, it's been 4 hours since I did this. I had to go do my mom Uber shift. So it was completely cooled down. Usually about after 2, maybe 3 hours, you can give it a look. But you can, it's just perfectly crunchy. I might just take a bite like this. Okay, and then from here, I'm just gonna start transferring it. That made a mess. Maybe I'll use my little ladle. I can scoop with this guy. scoop and drop. This is the Flexi ladle. I usually use this for soups and whatnot, but here we are using it for this granola. Oh my gosh, this is gonna make like twice as much. Even though I only used 5 cups, it's because of the way that it takes up so much space with all the air, which is why I tried to break it up. And we're gonna do a side by side here in a second. Okay, so we talked about the cost breakdown earlier, and ingredient-wise, it looks to be pretty comparable size-wise. So let's see how much we end up with in here. Very hands-off. It's mixing ingredients together, putting them in the oven, turning off the oven. Just don't forget to turn off the oven, right? So very convenient to make. Let's see what our final, I am just not left-handed. Let's see what our final total ends up being, comparison-wise. This is a gallon-sized freezer bag. Okay. It's done. Please stay back. Okay, yes, the bag holders are in our shop. Yes, they're that handy. No, I don't usually use them to do this, but I usually use them for freezer meals. Okay, so we should weigh this. That would be a better comparison, right? Okay, let's take this out. Oops. My counters are clean, don't worry. Okay, so height-wise, about the same. Let me try and you can see we got a lot more. We got twice the amount. So the ingredients for this cost about the same as this, but we got about twice the amount. I would say if we're doing this with yogurt, this is probably 4 or 5 servings, at least the way my children eat. This is easily 8, 9, maybe 10 servings. So there you have it. We got a lot more, which I suspected we would. And for ingredient costs being about the same, we just get more. So my final opinion is gonna be homemade. I know, shocker. I feel like, have all of these, is it worth it been homemade? I don't think so. But this I like. You can adjust the sweetener, you can adjust the flavors with different spices. If you have leftover nuts you can throw in from like leftover from the holidays or from a party or something like that. So there you have it. Really pretty convenient and easy to fit into your kitchen routine in terms of preparing it, getting it in the oven, letting it stay there even overnight if you do it at night. Sometimes I've done this many times where I will, after dinner, clean up, I'll just mix this up real quick, throw it in the oven, and it's ready in the morning. So that is a great option there as well for getting it to fit into your schedule. Okay, another tally for the homemade column. When I set out in this series, I really wasn't sure which direction it was gonna go. So this has been such a treat. I hope it's been helpful for you. If you haven't yet watched some of the other videos that we have in the series, definitely do that. There's a playlist. You should see it somewhere around the video here. So if you learned something new, if you're gonna give this overnight granola a try, hit the thumbs up button. The recipe, of course, is in the description that you can save, print, or pin it from the $5 Dinners blog. Also, subscribe to the channel because we're releasing new videos not only in this Is It Really Worth It series, but also other budget cooking videos, freezer cooking videos, how-to hacks, and more. All right, my friends, it's bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.